Welcome back to our series of videos where we're talking about some of the common questions that we get asked around content marketing and social media. Today we're going to be talking about something which we're doing a lot more of at the moment, which is content consumption research as part of this kind of strategy and planning process. So we're just going to spend a few minutes and in very simple terms we're going to look at what it is and why it's so important. So content consumption research comes in many guises. It could be a simple online questionnaire or survey, or it could be a physical focus group where you've got people sitting in a room, sitting around chatting with some tea and biscuits. But in simple terms, it's about engaging directly with your target audience and asking them about their content preferences, getting the information straight from the horse's mouth. So what content do they actually like? What don't they like and why? Not just your content, your competitors' content, content from other sources. What channels do they use? Why? When? What are their pain points? What are their challenges? What topics actually interest them? Really try and extract that information and understand as they explain it to you. Great content, content that engages, has to be based on knowledge and understanding, not on assumptions. And I think sometimes as marketers, we can be guilty of making assumptions, either assuming that we understand who our audience are and what they want, maybe assuming that existing research that we've done, even if it was done 10 years ago, is still correct. But what have you got to lose by asking? The worst case scenario is that the new research confirms everything that you thought was correct, in which case you can move forward completely confident that you're on the right footing. And along the way, you've scored some brownie points with your audience because they feel like you actually care what they want. So a common example of an assumption is, we hear it from time to time, or probably more frequently than we would like actually, from a subject matter expert who says that because they're writing technical, complex information and the audience is a specialist, knowledgeable audience, that means that they can't use plain English, and therefore everything ends up long-winded, complex, technical, full of jargon, and of course that's just rubbish. Recent research, particularly into legal language in legal documents, found that basically the more educated the person, the more specialist their knowledge, the greater their preference for plain English was. So the exact opposite to the assumptions that many people make. And our experience recently running a piece of content consumption research for a client in the pharma sector backs that up. So to give you a bit of background, our brief was to look at new ways to communicate what had traditionally been long format technical content to the healthcare professionals and look at improving engagement rates. And our client went to great lengths to stress that the audience was highly educated, sophisticated, very knowledgeable, and under no circumstances was the content to be dumbed down, in their words. So what they've been doing is sending out 6,000 to 8,000 word long format reports and white papers and such like to GPs and surgeons via email, which were just a wall of words. And of course they were bouncing straight off of it, because unless they happened to be researching that exact topic at that precise moment, they didn't have time for something that they weren't interested in and frankly looked like hard work. So we went out and we spoke to, via video calls and telephone and a couple of guys face to face, we spoke to a cross-section of their audience and asked them what they really wanted. And the feedback was overwhelming. They wanted content which was as short as possible, in plain English, and preferably pictures or video. In fact, one surgeon actually used the words, "Pictures would be nice, something I can print off and stick on the wall." So again, the exact opposite of the assumption that had been made. So they wanted short visual executive summaries that would stick in their mind, and then they could come back and revisit the longer document as and when it suited them in the future. So we were then armed with this knowledge, and that then allowed us to move forward and completely refresh the client's content and put all of their resources into developing content that aligned with their audience's preferences. And not surprisingly, the engagement rates jumped up. In fact, they increased by about 400% in a short space of time. So What's our advice? Whatever format your research takes, whether it's as simple as an online questionnaire or a more in-depth piece of research, just don't be afraid to ask your audience what they actually want. You may be surprised, or it may reaffirm what you already knew. But either way, you're going to win. Taking the time to get the foundations right means that you can move forward with confidence that you're not wasting your time, your budget, producing content for content's sake. You know that you're producing content which is going to align with your audience's preferences, what they actually want from you, and that can only benefit your content marketing and your overall business objectives in the future as you move forwards.